Hey everyone, and welcome back to another great episode on the Hope and Renewal podcast. This is where faith meets real life and hard truth is held with compassion. Again, this is your favorite host, Antonio Banks. I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope and pray that this message speaks to your heart. And if it does, that you do not keep it to yourself, but you will share it with somebody else. I want to start off with something. A few months after my mother passed, I found me standing alone in front of her old house, which they sold. The lights were off, the yard was quiet, and in that silence, memories started talking. I remember seeing her in the kitchen window, laughing and singing those K-Love songs. I remember saw her in the living room, kneeling beside the couch, praying when times were hard. And the thing is, I heard her voice, that same gentle reminder she used to give me. She said, "Son, don't just live to be remembered, live to make a difference." So I stood there for a while, thinking about those words. Because the truth be told, we spent so much time of our lives chasing something, trying to build a name, make a mark, or prove our worth. See, standing there in front of that house where she built faith out of struggle, I realized something. My mother didn't leave behind wealth. She didn't leave property or trophies. What my mother left was an impact. She left identity. And though she would disagree with me if she was here, her legacy wasn't written on paper. It was actually written on people. And that's when it hit me. We all leave something behind, but the question is, what? Is it our name or our nature, our possessions or our purpose? Because the thing about legacy and identity, they might sound similar, but they're not the same. See, that you can pass down your house and still lose your heart. You can give your children your name and still fail to instill your values in them. The world tells us to build something people will remember. The thing about God and what he tells us is this: to become someone who reflects him. So today I want to talk about the difference in between leaving a legacy or an identity. Because if you're like me, you probably wrestle with this too. You probably wondered if what you're building will matter when you're gone. So the truth is, legacy isn't about what follows your name. It's about what remains in your spirit. It's not what the world says about you. It's what heaven remembers through you. This episode is called Legacy or Identity, because one fades when you're gone and the other one lives forever. You see, we spend so much time building our reputation, defending our image, protecting what people say about us, that somewhere along the way, we lose ourselves in the process. We chase approval, we even chase recognition, and we chase status. Now, legacy without identity is like a tree without roots. It might look tall for a while, but when the storm comes, it won't survive. And some people leave behind a great legacy. Others are still in the process of building one. So I want to ask you this question. I want to ask you something that might sting a little bit. Would you still be okay if your legacy did not follow your kids? See, that's where we often get it twisted. We spend our lives building something, a name, a brand, a story, and deep down, we hope our children will carry it on. Now, what if they don't? What if your legacy doesn't live through them, but lives because of you? Would that be enough? Because sometimes what God starts in you, it isn't meant to continue through human validation. It's meant to continue through divine purpose. So the world, though, the world always has something to say. They'll say, well, he worked so hard, but for what? Or they'll say, his kids didn't follow in his footsteps. And they'll question your impact, your decisions, because that's what the world does. The world measures legacy by visibility. God measures it by obedience. See, the world says your children should carry your name. God says they should carry mine. Now, what if they don't carry either? Not yours, not even God's. What if everything you prayed for, everything you poured into them, does it go the opposite direction? The whispers begin. They must not have raised them right. Guess all that faith talk didn't work. See, that's why I don't believe in all that God stuff. And people are quick to judge the parents. They never stay long enough to understand the process. They see the rebellion, but not the prayers. They hear the gossip, but not the tears. They even point fingers, but they never lift one to help. And let me tell you something. I've learned just because your child's story doesn't look like your faith, doesn't mean your faith failed. Our timeline doesn't bind God's timing. Sometimes the prodigal journey, it is the only road that leads home. We live in a world that feeds off of drama, thrives on downfall, and celebrates gossip more than growth. We live in a time where people scroll for mistakes rather than search for meaning. It's like how society treats celebrities. Their kids aren't even born yet, and the world already decided who they'll be. They've already been labeled, judged, and written off before even taking their first breath. And that's the world we live in, a culture that predicts people instead of praying for them. I don't like mentioning them names on my podcast, so I tell you about a young man. While his sister grew up in the spotlight, red carpets, brand deals, and reality TV, he chose peace. He stepped away from the fame. Focused on education and creativity, and chose privacy over popularity. The world noticed. The gossip started. People whispered, why walk away from all that? And though few understood that he wasn't rejecting the opportunity, he was choosing peace. And there's another story, a sports kid born into greatness. The camera followed him before he could even talk. Everyone said, he's next. He was born with a name that opened doors. It also caged him in. Every move was measured. Every mistake is magnified. And in 2023, when he suffered a cardiac arrest, the same people who once praised him, now he is criticized for every step back. And that's the thing about society. We love to create expectation, but rarely do we have patience with growth. And that brings me to the Bible in Luke chapter 15 about the story about the prodigal son. A young man demands his inheritance early. He basically tells his father, I want what you have, but I don't want you. He wanted freedom, no rules, no restraint, no relationship. In chasing inheritance, he lost his identity. He received the father's possessions, not the father's character. He had full hands and an empty heart. And when the laughter faded and the money ran out, he would remember something. In Luke chapter 15, verse 18, it says, I will arise and go to my father. That's when everything changed. He wasn't just going home for food. He was going home for identity. See, he realized that everything he was searching for, value, love, purpose, had been at home all along. And when he returned, the father didn't even scold him. He didn't even shame him. He actually ran to him. He wrapped him in a robe to cover his shame. He put a ring on his finger to show he still belonged, and sandals on his feet to remind him he still had purpose. See, that's the kind of father we serve. A God who restores before he questions. A father who runs towards the broken, not away from them. The son didn't even become who his father was until he returned to his father's heart. Because legacy isn't passed through possessions. It's passed through presence. So I want to close with this. Maybe that's where you are today. You're trying to build something, trying to prove something, trying to hold on to your name. But let me tell you something, friend. True legacy isn't built on independency. It's built on connection. See, identity isn't about what you achieve. It's about who you're becoming in the Father's presence. Yes, the prodigal son didn't become what his father was because he left before learning his father's heart. And it's not the inheritance that shapes you, it's intimacy. So before you chase success, before you chase recognition, God is saying, come home first. Because until you know who you are in Him, you'll never know what you're meant to leave behind. And I want to leave you with this question today. Are you living for what you can gain or for the one who gave it all for you? Because one builds a legacy that fades and the other builds an identity that lasts forever. I want to thank you for listening to this episode on the Hope and Renewal podcast. Until next time, stay rooted in purpose and grounded in grace.